This is Commander Norman Dindial. Well, since you're fluent in Spanish, buenos dias, senor. So good morning to you, Commander Dindial.
Buenos dias, Stefan. Buenos dias, Stefan, and buenos dias to todo Trinidad. Thank you so much for that warm introduction there, that warm introduction. And it's nice to be on your show. Gonna keep it light, simple, and truthful this morning.
All right, brilliant. Let me just tell the guys in the back, guys, again, a little playback. So if you look at this, solve that problem as you usually do. But as I get into the discussion here with Commander Dindial, all right? I hear myself and I hear him. Well, I hear like an echo. Yeah, all I know what I'm talking about. All right, so Commander Dindial.
Sir.
All right, let's get cracking here. First thing first, as Dr. Munilal mentioned, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, in a statement, reported that a vessel went missing on February 4th. So first off, how does a vessel go missing? I mean, there is a radar, right? That would be seen on, I would imagine.
Yes.
Right. That's why I'm not hearing him now. What is all I doing?
You hear me now?
No. Yeah, go ahead, Commander Dindial, just talk to me 1 second.
How is that?
I'm not hearing him. No, I'm not hearing him.
Are you hearing me?
I was hearing him good just now. Just a little playback problem. Hold on, I'll be coming to you. Yeah, Commander Dindial.
Yes, are you hearing me now, sir?
Perfect. Right, so we're good to go. Fellas, all you get raise at the end of the year. All you get a little 2%, don't fret. All right, nice. All right, so Commander Dindial, how does a vessel go missing? Because I would imagine there is a radar that vessels are that would pick up vessels when they enter your waters, right? So how does a vessel go missing?
Right. So what you find happening, international vessel on an international voyage, once a vessel is over 300 gross registered tons, right? So that's the size of the vessel. They're required to carry a device called a AIS on board. And that is all that is an automatic identifying system. And it is a VHF device. It means it's line of sight. So it's a coastal station. So the vessel transmits its VHF identity to a coastal station so you can see it. Okay. Now radars is a different thing. We use radars for the ships to see where they are to avoid collision at sea. You also use radar from our standpoint. We have the 360 radar system by us in order to see what is coming into our maritime space. Now that is coupled with the AIS. The AIS, now the vessel will be emitting its own call sign or its own name. So it's been given a proper number, and that number will be emitted by the vessel to your shore station. So you know exactly who the vessel is, where the vessel is going, the next port of call, those sort of information, and helps navigation so that you wouldn't have any collisions at sea. What you find happening with some of these clandestine vessels, the AIS, they will switch it off. So if they switch it off, they will not be transmitting on the feed. So you will not be able to pick that up. But your radar can pick up a vessel, but the vessel, in order for you to identify what the vessel is or who the vessel is coming from, that will be difficult because it doesn't transmit what the vessel is or who is the vessel. So you're not seeing the registration number.
Right.
So the radar will you will just see vessels. So if you're just looking at a radar picture without the AIS, you will just see a bunch of blips on a screen.
Okay, but why would a vessel switch off its AIS?
So that's the thing, and we're coming to some of the critical questions.
Right.
In this the domain right now, we can only speak of the information that we have in the public domain. That vessel was transiting through the Galleons Passage or coming through Trinidad and Tobago, Galleons Passage. But if you are in distress, and this is what the AIS is for, the AIS is to help you for distress. We have had this for international voyages. If you are in distress and something is happening to you, your vessel, your crew, or your cargo, you will call for help.
Right.
Obviously, this vessel, the question is, they switched it off because they were doing something of a nefarious nature. They didn't want help. Because your ship is sinking, so that's one of the basic questions, that we need to ask. Why the AIS was off and why they didn't want to be found. because the vessel actually submerged, it capsized, and you would have had people on board. So you would think that, if you want help, you would call, because sometimes, as I'm saying, the cargo is more expensive than the vessel itself and life at sea. So you will want to help life at sea. So the question is why? Why? Obviously, they turned it off and some sort of nefarious activity was taking place. Clandestine activity that they did not want anyone to know of.
Right, because that's, in my mind, when we hear that this report of a vessel going missing on February 4th, and then I have been trying to wonder, and this is a question that you might be able to answer, how does a vessel that size being towed by a tugboat, because now after we heard that it was being towed by a tugboat, right? How, if a vessel is being towed by a tug, I mean, I would have to imagine that the vessel couldn't be moving that fast. So how does something like that go unrecognized in our waters? What is the capability of the Coast Guard in that scenario? I mean, how likely is it for a vessel to go and end up where it in the situation that it end up in without anybody seeing it? What's the chances of that?
So we have some information right now in the public that the vessel was actually transmitting AIS while it was traversing the north coast of Venezuela.
Okay.
It stopped transmitting at AIS and it went dark. Satellite imagery has picked it up going into one of the ports in Venezuela and then coming back out and retransmitting its EIS. So we picked it back up in EIS. When the vessel has entered the waters of Trinidad and Tobago, the radar would have seen it coming in. But if they are moving with their AIS and they took it off, now the vessel was laden. If you notice, the vessel was very, very heavy in the water and low down in the water, which is the barge. So the cargo was towing the barge was very loaded. So whatever cargo it was carrying in the first place, it was taking more cargo than it should have, because you could have seen the vessel was very. At that point in time, the weather was very, very bad. If you remember, we had Sahara dust coming, rough sea states. In fact, we still have rough sea states right now. The wind was about 40 knots. The vessel picked up a list, which means it just turned. So the vessel picked up a very bad list, it turned and it capsized. Now, when the vessel is so low down in the water, the radar picture that you're going to get from it, because radar is simple. Radar just bounces off. You have to bounce off something for the signal to return. When the vessel capsized or started to turn in the water, the wave action, the waves, because we have some pictures, the wave is actually bigger than the vessel itself. So the vessel was getting lost in that trough. You see when you go out there to fish, Stefan, and we see the boat going up and down?
Yeah.
The big waves.
Yeah.
So the vessel gets lost in there. Now, we understand that the crew of the tug tried to recuperate their cargo. But when they realized that they were not able to, they left. So they switched off the AIS and they left. They went to continue their operation, because if they got caught, they would have been a lot of hot water.
Right.
Now that vessel there, we would not have been able to see it because it now got lost in the waves. So the radar picture, when the radar is sending out its signal and getting back its signal, and if it's attenuated, which means that it's picking up the wave action, the computer itself will cancel off the wave action because the wave is breaking over the vessel. Okay. With the bad weather, it would have pushed that vessel with the drift and push it across into Tobago and in the west. So that's why, we're asking the question, how come we didn't see it and how come the fishermen didn't see it? Luckily for us, that the fast ferry or anybody there did not actually run into that vessel or another ship run into that vessel, because they would not have been able to see it with their radar. So it was very low down in the water.
No, you said there that the vessel it docked in Venezuela or it left from Venezuela?
So we have seen it or been able to track it going north of Venezuela, switched off its AIS, and then went into a Venezuelan port.
Okay, now.
And that's with satellite images.
That's the satellite images.
Satellite images.
I mean, it's no secret that Venezuela is under sanctions. So, if they're under sanctions, but I would imagine that these sanctions, anybody could come up with scenarios that I mean, if I am the leader of a country and I under sanctions, but I have to, I mean, I had to eat, I had to make money, I had to, you know, we had to create revenue somehow. They will do it by certain ways and means, right? Now,
Correct.
if this is indeed, because I can't understand, this thing happened on the 7th of February, we are now the 19th of February, we're 12 days down the road. I am reading in the paper this morning, they're still describing it as an oily substance. After 12 days, we should be able to identify if it's oil or not, right? We'll get to the identification of the ship that we can't find the owners and none of them yet either. We'll get to that. But in terms of this whole situation here where we have an oil spill now in the Tobago waters, we have an unidentified ship. The ship could have been coming from Venezuela. Venezuela is under sanctions. If anything, because I was reading in the paper this morning where the opposition is saying to the government, well, you know, why you all haven't activated Tier 3? Maybe you could explain what that is. They were talking about Tier 3 spill level, which would attract international intervention, right? I mean, at this point, do we need to upgrade this to Tier 3 spill level? And why would we not have international people on the ground right now trying to assist in sorting this out?
So one of the things that's been lacking in this whole scenario is that information and proper communication. And
right.
I don't know why the government's communication department has been silent. And they have always been silent before even this disaster. So I can't say what Mr. Nobrega them doing, but they need to be a little more proactive because people need to ask these questions. And these questions, they need information. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan, it has 3 tiers. And Tier 1 is when you have a localized oil spill. So that right. is in the area that, you know, like if it happens in Heritage, they can take care of it in the locality of what's happening.
Okay.
Tier 2 is where the national plan is activated. So Tier 2 is where you need help from the other agencies. You got the crews to come out and help. You get BG, BT, and stuff like that. And there is a bit of international support in there. So right now, they actually had IMO experts to help them team up and to help the NOC, National Oil Spill Contingency Plan Management Team, to work out what is happening. You right. see, where the spill is right now, because people talking about in the early stages, you know, why they didn't boom and stuff like that. You would not have been able to boom because the weather was so bad. If you boomed, this oil itself would have been coming out of the booms because the weather would not be able to. You don't have booms 6 feet high, and you have to anchor the booms to somewhere. So they took all those things into consideration, looking at the drift of the oil. So the oil actually drifted out into the open sea and broke up there, and they boomed the areas that were environmentally sensitive because you only have so much booms at this point in time. Because you don't need more booms. So you would boom these sensitive areas, you would boom the port, you would boom some of the mangrove. So you would divert the oil into open water by utilizing your resources that you have better, rather right. than utilizing resources around the vessel. So you would see people say, boom the vessel. But you would not be using those booms for anything. The booms would be useless. You know, they are not serving a purpose. Okay. The thing about it is that they had to not let the oil go into the port, because if the oil had gone up into those jets that the ferry is using, it would have damaged those engines, and there right. would have been a worse disaster there. So right now, Tier 3 is not required because they are handling it properly. They're handling it at the state that they understand the oil will be disrupted. Now we say sometimes, you know, you hear Gary and them talking, fisherman and friends, Gary, you know, yeah. this person and stuff. You don't really want to put this person as your first line of defense or your first mechanism, because this person is a chemical. We don't want to put chemicals into the water because there's a chemical already there. Okay. And as oil gets into the water, it starts to biodegrade. So also to spray a dispersant in that sort of conditions, the weather, the dispersant is not going to act. This dispersant is like the farmer going to spray his corn and the wind blowing. Everything is going to go all over the place. It's not going to be deposited on top on the oil itself. But for what they're doing, the level 3 is not activated as yet, because level 3 means a much more international help. And we have been a resilient country so far. We have enough oil. We have enough resources right now to deal with what we're doing. But I am sure TEMA is managing it, and they are constantly revising it to know what is required.
Okay, because well, you know that people on social media already, they have drawn their conclusions already. Well, they avoided international help, intervention, because this could be linked to Venezuela, and Venezuela under sanctions, and if any connection is made, Trinidad and Tobago could be in some deep water as well, no pun intended. But but I'm glad that you cleared that up, where you are saying that at this stage there is no reason to upgrade to tier 3. So
correct.
They're handling the situation.
Yes, they do. What is interesting though, as you're saying, you see the sanction part of it, knowing that these vessels are doing nefarious activities, what happens is that this may have been going on for some time. And what they do high sea transfers. So they're not transferring oil or bunkering in the waters of Trinidad and Tobago per se, because we are archipelagic states, so the waters between Trinidad and Tobago is considered ours. But you have vessels have right of free passage. And what happens is that that's the galleon's passage. You have vessels from there going off into the Atlantic. So those vessels could be they could be bunkering vessels going over into Spain, Algeria, Iran, China, wherever. But this happens on the high seas. So on the high seas, you really don't have so much jurisdiction as in your territorial waters. So these guys know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. So it is a very, very good operation. And these operations you see with countries that are under sanction. You really find these things happening, like you see North Korea, where you have sanctioned products. So when you have coal coming in, when you have countries that are sanctioned so heavily, they have to look for innovative ways in order to get funds into their country.
Of course.
So like in North Korea, you have coal, you have iron ore, you have wood, lumber, you have all these things in North Korea. But the thing about it is why North Korea is sanctioned by the UN. And the UN makes sure that everybody looks at it and the proliferation of arms and nuclear weapons. So you see, that makes it a little hotspot, so people look at that. But in Venezuela, it's just oil. And the people that have sanctioned Venezuela are the US, the UK, Canada, the EU.
Yeah.
So the UN has sanctions on Venezuela, but they haven't sanctioned the PDVSA oil. So the eyes are not looking. But we ourselves have a relationship with Big Brother Uncle Sam. We're keeping it like Uncle Sam. We trade with them. They're our largest traded partners.
Right.
So obviously, with this eventuality that happened, I mean, it showed its face by a disaster. It means that we will have to step up our game, because Big Brother is going to ask us now, what have you been doing?
Yeah.
That now leads to the fact that, the question you're asking, how effective is our Coast Guard? Are they patrolling as much as they're supposed to be patrolling?
Yeah.
I would tell you, and Gary Aboud would say, they're not even patrolling enough for fisheries. So if you're not patrolling enough for fisheries, you think you're patrolling enough for sanctions. And that is a function of the government themselves, the present administration, not putting enough resources for the Coast Guard is to buy fuel to go out and patrol. So when you hear the men on the Coast Guard talk, they're willing to go out, the men are willing to go out, they want to go out, but they have no fuel for the boats. So I don't know what the present administration is doing about that, but definitely now, the US is going to tell them, you need to step up your patrols. So we should see some more funds being injected into the Coast Guard right now to do patrols. But I can tell you, quite frankly, that the Coast Guard are not doing enough patrols.
Well, I mean,
not even to these patrols.
Well, I mean, we know that because we have an illegal immigrant problem. We have guns and ammunition coming into the country because we don't manufacture that here. But somehow or the other, we have brand new AR-15s and high-powered weapons ending up in the hands of gang members. We have a drug problem. We have a human trafficking problem. So, I mean, when you put all of that together, the maritime border patrols and the Coast Guard situation is is a disaster, to say the least. Because, I mean, we haven't been able to get control of that situation, and I can't understand why, because it ain't like we the size of North America. I mean, we're talking about the Trinidad and Tobago's a little dot on the map, and all we need to do is just patrol this little space. And I call it a little space. Maybe I am, you know, underplaying, you know, the size of Trinidad and Tobago, but of the waters around Trinidad and Tobago. But I mean, it seems pretty simple to me. This doesn't seem like rocket science. Once you have the necessary tools, which would be your Coast Guard boots and whatever else you need. But once you have your resources, I mean, this isn't a difficult, this should not be a difficult problem to secure the borders of Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, am I underplaying this, or is it more difficult than I'm making it out to be?
No. You're quite right. And it once you have the resources, and that's the thing about it, is that before they were under-resourced, but now they have the resources. So Coast Guard has the resources to do it. It comes down to, you know, one of those things that, you know, leadership.
Right.
Leadership and accountability. And the Coast Guard, I'm saying, the Coast Guard there has the leadership. They want to work, but you don't. But from central government is simply not giving them the funding.
Right.
To buy fuel. So
fuel is the major issue.
Fuel is the major issue. Right now, as I understand it, fuel is the major issue.
Okay. Now.
And then you have some maintenance problems because, you know, you got our procurement system.
Right. Well, we know in Trinidad and Tobago we don't ever maintain anything. We just buy things brand new and then watch it deteriorate, and then somebody's got a contract and brand new thing again. As it, you know, and I say that because I mean, we just had X amount of what was it, 100 new police vehicles. But anyhow, that's a talk for next day. The other question I have to ask you: we are 12 days down the road. How difficult could it be? I mean, I'm understanding that there are many Gulf Streams, right? Apparently there are many ships named Gulfstream. Seems to be a very popular name. But isn't every ship given a unique number?
Yes, that is correct. So each ship, and I remember before I spoke about the EIS, so each ship is given a unique maritime mobile number to identify them. However, in this instance, barges are registered differently. So barges are differently registered because a barge don't sail on its own. A barge is either towed,
right,
pulled, or pushed.
Okay.
So that's the difference with this. So people don't understand that it's a barge. It's registered different than a ship. Now, this particular barge, there are lots of vessels by the name of Gulfstream, but this particular barge was decommissioned. When I said it was like for scrap, this barge is very, very old. So what you would see is that somebody has a old car, they go and park it up on the side of the road, and they leave it there. And then somebody picks it up and goes and uses it for another activity. Right. So this is what has happened. This is what has happened with this barge, this particular barge. So this particular barge was decommissioned for a while. It was off the books, and they took it because it resurfaced. In 2022 was the last time that this barge resurfaced as a tug and barge combination.
Okay.
Because we were looking for it. The authorities were looking for it quite a while and looking for all the Gulf Streams. So when the incident occurred, the divers recognized that the name was Gulfstream. Now, it didn't have to be Gulfstream. It could have been something else because sometimes they paint on another name onto it.
Right.
So you see, so that's why you have to do the verification process. So when you're doing, they put a new number plate. So we have to be very, very particular in identifying the barge. So that's why you say they took a while to identify that the barge was actually Gulfstream. Now, when you look at the Gulfstream and they get all the data of the different barges, you have to find the length. And the length of the barge, if it matches the length of this. So it was a matching process that went on because there are barges of Gulfstream that were and ships, which are oil ships that are working right now in North Korea. And they are oil tankers. Yes, they were oil tankers, but they were larger. So they were like 99. So we knew there weren't those vessels. So the regimes was actually trying to make sure to identify the proper barge with this. But the difficulty in it is just that no one, even if you find them, will say it is theirs. Nobody will come up and say, it's mine. My car that went and bounced the person. No, not mine.
Right, no, nobody might come out and claim it. But is there not a way to trace it back to somebody?
So that's what the satellite imagery effort is right now about. To track, to see where it's gone, the satellite imagery, and then track the tug itself. Because the vessel has already overturned. The next set of things that have to be done is recovery.
Right.
So they have to recover that. They have to recover the wreck. Because the wreck is there. Now, a lot of people ask why they haven't done that right now. Why they haven't removed the wreck. Now, if you have to first of all identify what product is in it. If you start to go and pump the product out, what you find happening is that the vessel itself will get lighter. It's like, when the vessel gets lighter, it comes off the reef. The hole that is on the reef, the oil is going to gush out. So you're going to have the things in place to plug the hole that it's on the rock. So you get stabbed, you pull off the knife, the blood is going to come out. So it's a big operation that has to be done and done properly, because removing the wreck and removing the oil, if you don't do it properly, you can cause a bigger disaster. So that's why it is taking a little while, because it has to be done meticulously. Okay. Getting another vessel in there also. Remember, it's a reef, so you have to have a vessel. Then you have to pump it out. So you have to get pumping material. You have to pump it out. You have to put up hoses. When the vessel's been coming off the reef, you have to plug that hole. So it's a big process there. But even with that, when we identify that and we positively can say that this is the Gulf Stream, there's no operators for the Gulf Stream. We have to find the tug. So the tug is the tug that was pulling it. That's the key to it, and knowing where it was going. So the effort right now is with those satellite imagery. Now, satellite imagery, as you know, is a bit expensive, but the government has resources. They will pay for it, and they have to match and stitch the pictures together. So they have to follow it right through to where it's going and to its final destination. And so that's one of the things.
And just because we only have a couple minutes left, and so this entire process, just to let people in Trinidad and Tobago know, because even I mean, with all the information that you're giving right now, I'm getting a better understanding of the process here and some of the difficulties within that process. So would you say that 12 days, because we are 12 days from February 12th, from February 7th to the 19th today, that is 12 days. Would you say that this 12-day period, are you satisfied with where the information is, with the information that has come out so far, and with any gains that they have made over that 12-day period? Would you say that they are par for the course right now, or maybe they're trailing?
Some of the information could have been a bit forthcoming earlier.
Okay.
But having to distill the information, it will take some time. So yes, they are in the process, but I believe they are not letting out all the information right now when it deals with the security element of tracking and collect and finding the vessel. Because in the international arena, you would recognize that there will be big players. This is not no small people moving oil. International.
Yeah.
So there would be a lot of big players in it. So they would be holding some of their cards when it comes to finding the vessel close to their heart, because they will be incorporating a lot of individuals outside. That's to say, because the vessels themselves, they have shell companies that they set up around. So that if the vessel is registered, the tug registered in Panama, the owner of the tug may not be in Panama. The owner of the tug may be from Liberia, but he resides there. But he doesn't live there. He could be residing in the United States, but he put the company in Liberia. So you have to follow it and follow the shell companies that are on the tug. You have to follow it. So it's a process by following each one. So we know where it is registered. It's registered there. You have your registration number, but the person doesn't live there. The company is actually registered in another state, and the person is not a national of that state. So a lot of international law and complex international law is placed one on top of the other. So you have to distill it out to actually find the beneficial owner. And that's when we know who the polluter will be. So that's the principle that we work on. Once you find that person, the polluter pays. And that's how the IMO regime works now.
Okay.
But that process takes a while because these fellas don't want to be found.
Right.
So they don't want to be found. So they're hiding. They don't want to be found. And I'm sure when we start to look and bring more people, you would see that bunkering is be going out on our high seas for a lot of times. Okay. So ships are bunkering outside there and taking fuel. We don't know who the bunkers are coming from. Sometimes it may be from Trinidad and Tobago. Sometimes it might be cheap bunkers from Venezuela. But they're bunkering outside to go across there. Everybody's about a buck. Everybody wants to save a buck. Now, if the product is raw crude, that takes it a different story. Where's the raw crude going? Because the raw crude have to go to refine.
And
so that's why.
And well, it couldn't be Guyana it headed to because Guyana has no refinery.
Yeah, be for Guyana, definitely. It will have to be one of the, I don't want to say communist blocs, but one of the partners for Venezuela that has a refinery.
Right. Well, yeah, we would, yes. But it definitely in Guyana, because I hear them talk about Guyana. I know the Prime Minister gone there. They said it was headed to Guyana. But, I mean, if this is raw crude, as you said, there is no reason for it to be heading to Guyana because Guyana don't have a refinery. So it's going to be very interesting, but I still can't understand why they haven't been able. I mean, we are in the energy sector, so nobody can take a sample and take it to a lab to establish what it is yet.
I understand that samples have been taken. I don't know where the report is, but I understand samples have been taken of the product.
Okay. Well, what's that?
They're just waiting to identify it or to release the information, because I think the information is already there, but they haven't given to us in public domain. And that's what I'm saying. Again, in situations like this, communications is very, very important. And that's why, we're here to help break some of the monotony of people fear-mongering so that we have a better understanding, keep it simple, keep it real, keep it truthful.
Yeah.
So, that's what we're about. We're keeping it that way so that people know that we partner with them and they recognize that, listen, we are about the people. Take the information, they ask the questions, and we get it out for you.
Yeah. Well, Commander Dindial, I want to thank you for joining us this morning. The information was valuable information. I hope that the public is better informed now. And we look forward to see what comes out of, through the communication from the government in the coming days. Who knows, maybe today I might hear something. You know what I mean? So we wait to see. But thanks a lot for joining us this morning. Have a good one.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stefan. Thank you so much, Trinidad and Tobago. Have a pleasant day.